Hi, and welcome to episode 10 of That Guy's a Maniac, the podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about Pokemon related things. You can find us talking shite and drivel on our blog, which has been going for the past 16 years, which is what?
I'm just going to interrupt the intro. I know it's annoying. But we always do. Well, this is behind the scenes content, listeners. We always have a little, guys, so how's the episode going to go? And a little chat about it. And you're always really upbeat. And then within the first 30 seconds of an intro, you're like, so here's our shite and our dribble.
But it is our shite and drivel.
So
I'm not saying it in a negative
it's
way.
It's just an observation. I know, it just cracks me up every time.
Well, yeah, anyway, our shite and drivel can be found at thatguys.co.uk. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, etc., etc. And yeah, you can get this podcast forever as well. Like, because somebody does all the heavy lifting, puts in the effort in, and actually gets us on all of these platforms. Do you know what I mean? Yeah?
Are you talking about me?
No, not at all.
So I think if you listen to the previous episode, it's quite clear who actually does the heavy lifting on the podcast.
You don't even know what a podcast is.
Chronologically.
Yeah, whatever. Right. So today you have myself, Richie, and we are also joined by the not so lovely Cunzy11, aka Farley. Say hello, Farley.
Hello, Farley.
Oh, you're funny, so funny.
Can I take that joke back?
Oh, I'm not even gonna edit it out. I'm gonna turn it into a disco remix.
I didn't want to do
it. It's too late now. It's fucking audioed. Audioed? It's out there. It's in there. It's not even. Say hello, Farley.
Hello.
There we go. It's also quite creepy. That was like, when you do that impression of Annie Hopkins in Silence of the Lamb. It's the same kind of hello.
Well, hello, Clarice.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty solid. So, who is sponsoring us today?
Well, Richie, I thought you'd never asked. This week's sponsor of the podcast is the Devon Corporation, based down in Rustboro City for all your Pokeball needs, submarine pieces, shit like that. Devon Corporation.
Okay. Cool.
Started off in mining.
Yeah, I'm just gonna crack open a lovely fresh can of Devon Corporation IPA. No, I'm not. It doesn't exist. But yeah, that's what they do in these kind of podcasts, isn't it? It's like they have their sponsor and they're like, listen to that lovely, glorious, whatever.
Yeah, Devon Corp, they didn't really give us any stipulations, they just mentioned the company. That's it.
Okay, cool. Awesome. And what are we talking about today?
So today we're talking about an obscure Japanese game, probably haven't heard of it, called Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, and also Pokemon Let's Go Eevee for the Nintendo Switch. So these games came out, and before we kind of talk about them, because we have different feelings about these games, I think my feelings changed about them over time. Talking about a series like Pokemon is strange because it's a 26-year-long franchise, and more so than other kind of long-running franchises, it's all kind of tied together. So depending on where you're jumping in, so this, for some people this might be the first Pokemon game they picked up. For some people they might remember playing Pokemon Red, Pokemon Yellow or Silver, and they're kind of picking this up. For other people, they might have picked up every single main series Pokemon game. So depending on your kind of jumping off point and your relationship with this series, you're going to feel very differently about it. And I just wanted to say, start off with a positive message that all of those feelings are valid, because sometimes the Pokemon community gets a little bit hoity-toity about things, and it kind of reflects badly on general Pokemon fandom, I think.
What sort of hoity-toityness
so
are you
that-
referring to?
Yeah, just every decision, it's either Game Freak is stealing your money, sheep, or boycott this, boycott that, or
Oh, like Dexgate or national.
the national.
Yeah.
But it just seems constant, and it doesn't. It's never really reflected in sales. But I think potentially it can kind of put people off ever engaging with the series, which is a shame. As I mentioned earlier, this might be a game you picked up and that you had a great time playing through with your partner or child, or it might be your long-time series fan. And I think we both fall squarely into that latter category.
Mm-hmm.
And this game is essentially a remake of those first games, and so this is something worth bearing in mind. It's visiting the Kanto region. So this is the game which essentially is based on Pokemon Red and Green, and then later Blue, and then Yellow. And as a kind of place, and one of the things I like about the Pokemon series,
I'm gonna just stop you in your flow right then and there. I love the fact that you listed them as the Japanese releases as opposed to the actual Western releases. Because we never got green.
Yes. No, we didn't. And
geeky otaku.
well, until recently, I didn't know this until recently, so I'm gonna fess up. I didn't realize that the red and Pokemon Red version and Pokemon Green version, however you want to call them, the Japanese games, are slightly different to the games that we ended up with, beyond just the version differences. So those first two that came out, I think they're out in Japan for a couple of years before the international release. There were a number of tweaks which were made, which ended up in Pokemon Blue, which is referred to as the international version. So I was listing just the number of times we may have been to Kanto, right, which is the region where this is set, first 151 Pokemon. And so if we include those remixes, not the remixes, the original Japanese versions, and they're slightly tweaked again for the international version, then Pokemon Yellow, you could argue, is again a slightly different game based in the same region. Then the back halves of Pokemon Gold and Silver, you return to Kanto, albeit after a bit of a time skip. Then Fire Red and Leaf Green are remakes of this game again, but with kind of some new features in the Sevii Islands. Heart Gold, Soul Silver, again, we return to that. And then if we throw in things like the anime, or the animation side of Pokemon, they kind of rebooted that in many different ways. And this is what I was saying when it comes to Pokemon is the same characters and same premise, but it's almost like through a slightly different prism. So you'll have, let's say Brock, who's one of the gym trainers. So he's in the original games. He's also in the anime. He's also featured in the card games. And so he has the kind of, almost going back to what we talked about last week, and kind of the character embodiments in Neptunia series. But they're all different. So Brock's also in the manga. And so this is, as the first game, it seems that we just keep being brought back to visit it. Maybe for better, maybe for worse. Other people like different regions. But we kind of, the first season of the anime is based on the Kanto region. Then that weird kind of short series Generations kind of it exists separately, but also reboots it. Then the recent film I Choose You is yet another retelling, with kind of Ash Ketchum. It sort of tells the same story again, albeit within the space of a film. And then you've got kind of the manga and the collectible card game. So all focusing on this. So with all of that preamble in mind, this is us coming once again back to the Kanto region, back to the first 151 Pokemon. So there's 2 more that weren't in the original game, but we go. This came out following Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon when we were up to 806 Pokemon. So
Yeah.
I think some strange decisions were made in this release anyway. And that's our premise to discuss Pokemon Let's Go, Pikachu Let's Go, Eevee.
Okay. Cool. Well, I mean, my feelings towards this game, I was super stoked when it was coming out. I was
Yeah,
a
me
little
too.
bit, I was a little bit dubious about the Pokemon Go mechanic because obviously Let's Go, Pokemon Go is trying to bring the two together. And essentially, what this
Yeah.
game is supposed to be a bridge, or was supposed to be a bridge between bringing Pokemon Go into the main series, because it's not actually like developed by Game Freak. It's developed by Niantic. It doesn't ever really cross paths with the Nintendo series in that sort of fashion. So it was kind of exciting based on the fact that I was like reasonably into Pokemon Go as well. And I was so stoked about it that I actually got the Pokemon Go Eevee Switch, the the actual like yellow and brown Switch version.
Yeah. It
Which
is a gorgeous, one of the most gorgeous Switch combos, I think.
Yeah, I really like it. I really like it. But that being said, and you probably tell by the tone, I was not a fan of this game. I wanted to be, and I went in there with high expectations. But and I think one of the main reasons, which you actually just very, very succinctly sort of mentioned, it is a revisit again to Kanto.
Yeah.
And it's not like I haven't done this enough times. I was playing through it, and it was too reminiscent of like the old game. It also, when compared to like even the latest DS versions and things like that, plays so slowly. I'm playing it as a console and like going up against all of these fights, and I just found myself thinking, one, I can't be bothered doing this again. Two, the fighting just takes too long. It was too much of a slog. And part of my excitement around it was, okay, cool, they've brought in the Pokemon Go sort of like collecting mechanic, and now you can like collect the Pokemon and you put them in a box. But even like the actual mechanic of collecting them or throwing the Pokeball, it was dull. So dull. It was like there are different ways you can catch the Pokemon in the game. Like, so you walk around, you go into the tall grass, you'll find the Pokemon out in the tall grass. Great new feature, fantastic. It's pretty. But then when you actually come across the Pokemon, it is like you have the opportunity, as you saw in the adverts and things like that, to actually make a throwing motion, or you can do other things. But ultimately, the best thing you can do is just press A. And that's what it becomes. It's like there's no point in doing this throwing mechanic. Press A. Press a button. Boom. Done. And like the Pokeball accessory was just unwieldy and not fun to use. And I just found myself playing this game thinking, I'm not having fun. And I ended up actually grinding it just as fast as I could by skipping what battles I could, whatever I could, to get the stupid extra Pokemon that was available in the game. Meltan and was this evolution?
Melmetal.
Melmetal. And I went through, did that, which had the Pokemon Go connectivity, which was awful. Oh, that connectivity was awful. Like, turn off your phone, turn off Bluetooth beforehand, put it back on again. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't work. And
yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah. But yeah,
So I think
sorry. Go on.
it's worth talking about the kind of the connectivity between Go and Let's Go. And actually, one of the major differences in this revisit, unlike other mainline series, and there was a whole hoo-ha about whether this was a mainline series game or not, because one of the series directors said it is, although it's clearly different. So though it has the same beats, and essentially it's the same tile set as the original Pokemon Red, right?
Yeah.
They didn't even take the opportunity to update much. There's one or two slight differences I can think of. One of which is you've actually got Team Rocket
Yeah.
popping up a little bit more than they did in Yellow, and then the other feature
But
is
you actually get Team Rocket, as in Jesse and James, in it, which was cool.
yeah.
That was a good addition. And look, despite all my bad mouthing, like the game is pretty. It is a pretty beat for beat remake of the original one, and I don't need to play the original one. It was very, very slow. Like you're a nutter. You went back and you actually played through Pokemon Yellow again. I've gone back and started playing those old games. I'm just like, oh my god, this is so slow. The quality of life.
Yeah, when they came out.
Yeah.
When they came out, the Virtual Console, and it's something we've written about. And every time we review a new Pokemon game that comes out, it's something that I think we mention frequently. Is if you're not too familiar with the series, it can just look like it's rich coming from us because you just complained how this is the same game again. But it looks like that not much has changed with this series, right? Okay, they throw a few different characters in, throw a few different Pokemon in, change up the region, but essentially it's the same as it was going back to the Pokemon Red, Green, Blue, and Yellow. But when the Yellow, Silver, Gold, and whatnot came out for the Virtual Console, I thought, yeah, I could replay those. And because it's almost like the hypothetical frog in a boiling pan, a pan of boiling water. Because we've played along with this series, it's only when you go back, take a huge leap and go back and go, oh my god, we used to put up with this crap?
Yeah.
And the original games are really slow.
Yeah, there's
really
been so
grindy.
many improvements, quality of life wise, through all of these years that we've seen, that when you take that leap back, it is just, oh my god, like you rose tinted remember it with all of the quality of life changes, and you're like, oh god, this is awful. Yeah.
And so the biggest change that they made with this game, which then did not appear in Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield, is that instead of having essentially a turn-based battle, so you run into the wrong glass and run into the wrong glass.
With the frog is it in water that's in the boiling?
The frog's in water. You run into the wrong glass with no shoes on. You run into the long grass.
And the monkey's in the cleave.
And in the old games, that would trigger a turn-based battle. You fighting an opponent Pokemon, you chip its life down and throw a Pokeball if you want to catch it. Here, all of that has been replaced with a catching mechanism, which is a bit more in line with the kind of ball swiping on Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
And part of that is also linked to them, I think, pushing this new controller, which you've already mentioned, the Pokeball Plus. And it's an interesting decision. I think it's much more accessible and actually quicker. These battles can go on quicker. Of course, because it's on the Switch, there's a whole range of control options. And honestly, I think if you're playing it on the big screen, the Pokeball controller is probably the best one to go with. Although you're doing everything with one hand.
Yeah.
And if you don't have child hands, you kind of develop this claw because you have to push down on a joystick, which is your A, and there's a lot of pressing A in this game. The Joy-Cons, I think, having the Joy-Cons separate is the worst way to control it, and there are some real motion issues when you're throwing the balls. And strangely, they made the decision that when you enter an encounter to catch a Pokemon, it starts to kind of hop around and you have to, using the gyroscope, direct your throw to the Pokemon. It's a timed encounter for the first time ever, which is strange. So the combination of having the Joy-Cons, which don't work fantastically, to be honest. I'm not having any problems with the Pokeball Plus, and the fact that it's a timed encounter means that occasionally, for whatever reason, you'd miss a catch. Sometimes that might be a shiny, because you had these timed encounter. And then by far the best way to play it, I think, unfortunately, it's not on the big screens, in handheld mode, because then everything just becomes a button press, and moving the camera and not motion controls. So that's a strange decision to take, but I can see they were kind of pushing the Pokeball Plus, but then they've not really done anything with the Pokeball Plus. It's got a bit of connectivity to Sword and Shield, a bit of connectivity to Go, but they're not really, it is yet another Nintendo peripheral that has this really limited usage, and that's it. And so that fundamentally changes the way the game plays, because all of a sudden it becomes really hard to kind of rack up experience. And then they've made some other changes to really streamline it down. So Pokemon no longer have abilities. There's no longer kind of EV training, so you can still augment your Pokemon, but in a completely different way. So they introduce candies. So every time you catch a Pokemon, you'll get a candy. So if you catch 25 Pikachus, you'll end up with 25 Pikachu candies and perhaps some health candies. And so you can just keep pumping all your candies into one Pokemon and essentially over level it. So they've made loads of concessions to make this perhaps the easiest Pokemon game there ever was. Of course, we've not mentioned the fact that you start off with a partner, two of Pokemon's most bankable characters, Pikachu and Eevee. That's one of the main differences between the versions.
Is Eevee bankable, or has Eevee just recently been super pushed into the forefront?
I think a combination of both. I think Eevee and the evolutions, there's a whole line of evolution merchandise. In the darker corners of DeviantArt, there's all kinds of filth based around Eevee and its evolutions. But yeah, I think of the two to choose, those are the two. So that and this is another kind of radical change from the mainline series of the games, where you don't get to choose between one of three starters. You get the starter the version of the game that you play, and they're just overpowered little assholes.
They are. But you get to dress them up as well.
You do, and that is. I must say, the dressing up part of this, which is an addition. There are quite a few. Now we talk about it, there's actually quite a few more additions than I remembered.
Yeah.
So you can dress up your character, and you can dress up your Pikachu and your Eevee, which is adorable. You can also kind of interact with them in a very limited way, but you can give them a bit of a head scratch and stuff their face full of berries, and every now and then you give them a present. But the point being is they obviously accompany you on your journey, and you may remember if you played the old games, you'd have to rely on these HM moves. It's kind of the gear gating was, you can't get past this area because you don't have cut to cut down a tree,
and then you'd have to find a specific Pokemon that could learn that cut move, and then you had to keep that Pokemon with you throughout. Any time you needed to use cut in order to get past it. Yeah.
So by the end of the game, your half your team is people who can use Surf and Dive and Waterfall and Cut and Strength and Flash and Fly. Thankfully, that kind of mechanic has gone away in the other games in the series, but in this one, that still remains. But essentially, your partner Pokemon learns all of those moves. But not only does it just learn those moves, it also gets them as ridiculously overpowered moves in the game. So if you kind of have your partner on your team, even though it's just a little Pikachu and just a little Eevee, you can quite easily just smash through almost every gym battle just using your kind of partner. And even if your partner's not on your team, there's a mechanic where you can kind of call it in to boost your stats or do a super move. So the challenge is significantly reduced. So not only can you pump your Pokemon full of candies to give them stats beyond what they could ever have in any game previously, you've also got this kind of super cute weapon that accompanies you. You can kind of call in at any point. And then, the Pokemon Go connectivity. We talked about this before. I can't stand Pokemon Go, and it's really kind of the lowest, one of the poorest quality things that it's Nintendo adjacent. And I agree with you completely. So here, the Safari Park, if you remember the old games, is replaced by the Go Park. So you connect to your Pokemon Go account, and yeah, it's a nightmare. Particularly if you're using Pokeball Plus as well. What Bluetooth's connecting to what Bluetooth, and what's connecting to what account, and I don't know.
I mean,
we
it
both
was
have connectivity.
it was so obscene, and like the actual the actual thing or the way that they did it as well was just not. Oh, it was so complicated, overly complex.
Yeah,
So like,
and
you're given a box on Go, which allows or attracts Meltans, but you can only do it every 7 days. So basically, every 7 days, you log back into Go, dump all of your Meltans into a Pokepark, whatever it is, and a Go Park, Pokemon Go Park, and then you then are allowed to use that to catch another X amount of Meltans again. And I mean, I did it until I got, I don't know, like 10 shinies, and I was like, fuck this shit. And I just stopped it. But yeah, like, it was weird. And I was just like, why is this so gated? You know, like, on so many levels, why are they adding this in there?
And then the new Pokemon, which is still currently, although I think it will change, exclusive to Pokemon Go, this Meltan, who was only available through a couple
Why
of
do you think it'll
events,
change?
because Melmetal has a Gmax form.
Oh, okay.
It's probably the most weebiest sentence I've ever said in my life. Because Melmetal has a Gmax form. Unless they, I really hope they don't continue Pokemon Go connectivity. So yeah, so very strange in that they introduced a new Pokemon outside of the main games. You can only get it through a time-limited event on Pokemon Go, or by hooking up your game to this. It's a 2-stage, so you get the basic Pokemon Meltan, which evolves into Melmetal. But another stupid thing is you can't evolve Melmetal outside of Go.
Nope. So you just straight up have to get all your candies, evolve it up, and then trade it back through. Yeah. And actually, I still don't have a Melmetal in my blooming Pokemon home, because I realised that I was like, shit. So now I have to go through that rigmarole, and I just really don't have I don't have the patience to do that. Like,
so let's do the steps. So what you need to do is you need to connect your phone, and by the way, if your partner walks in, right, and you've got your Switch on, you're prodding your phone, and potentially you've got the Pokeball Plus in the mix. So let's say we're starting from scratch. You have to connect your phone.
No, start from scratch.
Pokemon Go and transfer something from. Yeah.
Step 1, get to a certain point in the game, which unlocks the ability to get the box.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's not like town number 2 either. It is quite, 3/4 through the story, which you can kind of blitz through, particularly this mental EV or picture and routine. So you get that far, hit this Pokemon Go Park. Then you have to transfer something from your Pokemon Go account to Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee. And again, surprise, surprise, because Neanderthal involved. It just didn't work when these games first came out. Then when you do that, you then unlock a box. It's called a metal box in Pokemon Go. And when you tap that, it gives you an hour, half an hour.
Yeah, I think it's like half an hour, 30 minutes straight.
Gives you 30 minutes, and it spawns a Meltan, this new little Pokemon.
Every sort
3
of
minutes or so.
around a minute. No,
Yeah.
no, you get quite a lot. Yeah. Anyway,
Then you have to catch enough of those to earn 400 candies, which is a pain in you have to do this 3 or 4 times.
yeah, and they
using
don't even
berries to get.
like even the Go mechanic of actually getting candies, which is just like add them as your buddy and walk around with them. They
Yeah.
gimped that, and I think they made it like you have to walk for 10 kilometers or 20 kilometers until you get a candy, which
Right.
when in normal
So
Pokemon is like 1 or 2, you know.
So do 5 marathons to earn enough candy to then evolve it, and you can only evolve it into Melmetal in Pokemon Go. Then you transfer it back to Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu. Then, in order to get it off Let's Go, you then have to go to the park, catch it again with this kind of silly catching mechanic. Then you've got it in your party, and then you log out of that, log into home. I'll make sure it's not in your party, actually, put it in a box. Then via home, transfer it to Pokemon Sword and Shield. Ridiculous. Yeah. Anyway, so this was, but I do think, and I include myself, this game coming out and Meltan and Melmetal being exclusive to the kind of connectivity between these got me back into Go when I was pretty much done. And yeah, onto this game. Anyway, so it's really kind of stripped back, and a lot of players kind of complained about that, and it was kind of weird as to why. Maybe to make the game more accessible, but
I think
you just come off the back of.
I think that's a very, very good point there. It's like I have a feeling that game was supposed to be like an access point for a lot of people who hadn't necessarily played the Pokemon Go series or Pokemon series in general, or were fans of Pokemon Go, because despite your dislike of it, it is a very broad game. Loads of people were playing the hell out of Pokemon Go, so it was kind of like, if you like Pokemon Go, even though you might not know anything about the series or played any of the games, here's a nice accessible one. And of course it's like super kid friendly as well. And then there was that I think there was a thing like going around like in the adverts or something like that about parents and children playing it. So if you remember playing Pokemon Red, why not play this with your kids? And you're just like, oh shit, thanks for reminding me.
And then there is
how old we are. You know?
There is a, I don't want to say gimp, that's not fair, but there's a weird kind of co-op in this game.
Yeah.
So at any point, a second player can drop in by waggling a controller, and then you kind of take one of the 6 Pokemon on the team, and then you can do joint catches by both throwing the ball at the screen at the same time, which fits that scenario perfectly. I think you used to play it. You've got a young child or partner. It's an easy way to get in, and by stripping out all the things like abilities, hold items, just makes it much more straightforward, and not this kind of insane monster chess.
I mean, it is like it is. You can understand the frustration behind that, because you're basically just playing like the Fisher Price version of Pokemon, and I mean, it's not like Pokemon should be particularly complex. It is I don't know how to explain it. It's just, it is like a kid-friendly version, and I don't know. It is annoying in that fashion, but again, sorry, I need to bring this back actually to what I was initially saying about the game, and it's still fucking slow. As much as you say that catch mechanic's great, you are then drawn back to the original mechanics of the game, which is, the line of sight. Like, so everything is on a sort of grid, and the line of sight means that if another trainer sees you, you then have to battle them and move on. So you do that, and you have to go through big long caves and the usual thing of like, oh shit, am I gonna have to use potions and all that sort of stuff, and you go through it. It's not hard because ultimately you do have that mega weapon of your EV or at any time. But the actual starting a fight, going through the speech, going through and actually going through the animations and getting through to the actual fight for the reward, which is shit XP. And I'm not trying to be a dick about this or anything like that, but like, if you're going to go through all of this, you get shit XP when you'd have been better off just catching 4 Pokemon in a chain, and you'd have more XP and more items and more everything. So you're just being thrown into this. You have to fight these trainers in order to get to the next area, and this isn't fun. Nothing about that was fun for me.
Yeah, and that's that's where perhaps they didn't shake it up enough. So you've got late 90s, mid 90s, handheld JRPG battle mechanics hitting modern day graphics and gameplay. So I mean, yeah, the battling the trainers takes the same amount of time as it always took. It's just the catching and running around in the ground. Basically the random battles are gone, which is a huge thing. Weirdly, and we've had this a couple of times in the past with the Pokemon series, where different teams are working on different games. You'll get some great features which are introduced that then just don't translate over to the next game at all. So some of the stuff like seeing the Pokemon in the wild, which is something that Let's Go added, which is fantastic. And it's been on the list of demands for Pokemon players for years and years.
Yeah.
Let us instead of if you're surfing on the ocean or walking some grass, the random number generator will get you, and you might have a battle. So you can see everything walking around, and then also something we'll come on to later. You could see whether they were shiny or not. So
yeah,
I think the one concession this has a lot for kind of people who want to get a lot more out of Pokemon. Not as much as other games, but there is kind of challenges there. And you can see them in the field, which made kind of added a nice element to shiny hunting, which is then weirdly just not in Sword and Shield at all.
I think it's fine. I think Let's Go is too different a beast, because in order to make those shinies appear, you have to be doing like chains and all those sort of things. So it becomes its own little meta game. If you could do that in Sword and Shield, it becomes very, very different, especially when you're dealing with 400 Pokemon rather than 150.
Yeah, but essentially it's the same mechanic. It's just you can't see what color they are. So sorry for those of you who don't know. Let's start from the beginning. Shiny Pokemon are Pokemon which have been in since Japan, since Pokemon Gold. Japan. Street Fighter 2 Japan coming back again, and it's a rare color variant of a Pokemon, and increasingly, kind of shiny hunting has become a part of kind of what you do when you are hundreds of hours into a game that perhaps doesn't have hundreds of hours worth of hunting to sustain it.
Yeah.
And it's become easier and easier. It used to be a really, really rare thing. It used to be, you couldn't really do much to increase your odds apart from just having more encounters, and you'd have a 1 in X thousand chance. Increasingly, and it's the lowest it's ever been, I think, with Pokemon Sword and Shield. Actually, probably Let's Go. There are various things you can do to kind of increase your chances of spawning a shiny Pokemon. And so for me, I've put just shy of 100 hours into Pokemon Let's Go. And I think half of that has been shiny hunting, because because essentially, apart from the fossil Pokemon, apart from the Omastar line, the Kabutops line, Aerodactyl, and arguably the legendary birds, it's relatively straightforward to manipulate the odds to catch. Think of your favorite first 151 Pokemon. Wouldn't you like a shiny version of it? Here's what you have to do, and it's very straightforward. Say you're after a shiny Pikachu, which is a bad shiny because it's kind of a harder
Orange.
yellow. Yeah, orange Pikachu. In order to increase your chances, you just need to catch 30 Pikachu in a row. It doesn't matter if you bump into other Pokemon, you can run away. You just have to catch 30 in a row, and then you use an item called a Max Lure, which increases the number of times, the frequency which Pokemon spawn. Essentially, you sit there, wait, just looking at Pikachu, and then hope the odds are in your favour, and your 1 in whatever chance shiny Pikachu will pop up, and then you have a chance at catching it, and you hope to catch it before the timer kind of randomly decides it just had nothing on top.
Yeah.
Which is the easiest it's ever been. And so I think, I should have had a count before I started. I think I've caught maybe 20 shinies in Let's Go.
Nice.
Yeah. And that's what I use it. That's what I now kind of use it for. Other good things. I think we've lent on the kind of negative side of things. It is, although in the one way you can still see the tile-based map here.
Yeah.
Bodies
It's
of water
still a grid. Yeah.
have 3 squares this way, 2 squares this way. But it's nice to kind of see. I thought it was really nice. Kind of nostalgia really kicked in to see, what we started off seeing as green and black scenery in kind of beautiful graphics. The music's gorgeous, so all the songs that you know and love kind of get a bit of a remix. And those are kind of fantastic. And so I think if we didn't have if the Pokemon franchise didn't exist, like didn't have, whatever 50 mainline series games, and this came out, it would be a much easier selling prospect. So essentially it's like what's the Legend of Zelda game that's just come out?
Breath of the Wild?
No,
Oh,
the
Oh god.
Link's Awakening? Link's Awakening?
No. Oh, the remake of the SNES one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Essentially, if we had nothing in between Pokemon Red, Blue, Yellow, and this, it's essentially this, right?
Yeah.
Here's that game you loved, updated, and it's fantastic. Because it sits nestled within, Ultra Sun and Moon, which is, and will remain probably for a long time, the largest Pokemon game in terms of number of Pokemon and connectivity with other games. And then the next big one on the Switch, which is the Departure. I don't know, it was always going to lose out for Pokemon players like you and me, I think.
Yeah.
I think for all the people we've mentioned before, people returning to the series, people who kind of picked up a Switch, and perhaps their last console might have been the Wii or Xbox generation, and they're like, oh yeah, I had some good times with Pokemon, and kind of picked it up, and then really not had to sweat about, kind of getting through. And as much as you say it's still slow, getting through that game is much, much quicker.
I don't know. I'm gonna forever.
I think it took me 60 hours to get through Pokemon Yellow originally, to the story.
All right,
to the
okay.
Elite Four.
But I mean, that's the thing. At least you had like a team with you that you cared about, and you were like leveling up. And if you found a new one, you would spend the time to like grind up and get, good stats and get levels and stuff like. Whereas with this, it's kind of like I have some Pokemon and I have a nuke. You know, it's just like, okay, what's the point? Like for min maxers, this game is straight up awful. You
Well,
know,
no, it's fantastic because you can overmax any
yeah,
Pokemon you
but
want.
oh, I suppose yeah, but
You
it
just have a
takes away any of the
Pokemon.
fun of the game at all as well. You know,
I think.
and
Well, if you mean, well, I don't know. What do you mean? Because on the one
look,
hand,
min maxing in a game does usually, for at least for me, is like, let's get this to the highest level. Let's take advantage of this, and we'll do this. And that's fine. I could run through and I could nuke the game, but you can't run through. You're seriously just hurdled by so many shitty battles that mean nothing and are inconsequential, and you're just left looking at text, waiting for an animation to play, and then doing that again, and then doing that again, and then doing that again, and it's just like, I want to get out of this fucking cave. I preferred it when it was just Zubats after Zubats, you know? Like,
I
it
mean,
was. Yeah, sorry.
you can turn the text speed up and the animations off.
Yeah. I mean, it's. If you're going to watch and play a pretty game, it might as well be pretty as well. And also, like, as a Pokemon game, and as a Pokemon gamer, I do select a team of 6 that I like, and I will take them through and I will try and enjoy it. But then they just get overshadowed, and you're just like, oh, I like the idea of going through with a Vulpix, but now that Vulpix is really shit. And in order for him to get any good, it's pointless to even invest any time in, you know, because you've just got this Nook beside you that's gonna just straight up be the best thing you can use. It's like the meta version of this game, or the most efficient way to play it, is the least fun, and the most fun way to play it becomes so long-winded that it becomes a ridiculously hard game of just like, right, okay, I'm never going to use Eevee, so I'm going to use this other team, and I'm going to have to spend forever grinding, and they just won't ever actually be that good. Oh, and look, there's a tree I need to cut down, so I actually do need to use Eevee. You know, and what's the point? What is the point?
But you don't have to have Eevee in your team, right? You just have him on your bench. Essentially, he's
Yeah,
permanent on your bench if he's not in your team.
but again, you're
Yeah.
not gonna put away your most value MVP. You know, most valuable Pokemon. um, I don't know. It's a tough one for me because, like, I just blitzed through it as far as I could get to, and I was happy to leave it behind. I once I got to that point and I'd done my Pokemon Go related things, I could not wait for Sword and Shield to come out in the hope that it was going to be like, thank God, bring back the quality of life things. It's just, it is what it is, you know. But there you go. I think my struggle mainly with this game is like, I had expectations, certainly didn't meet it, and when I played it, I was disappointed with the game itself. It was pretty, don't get me wrong, but you kind of wanted it to be more. I don't know. But
Yeah, I mean, maybe a way to put it would be that the new additions were either strange or kind of not enough to counteract perhaps what hadn't been changed enough. And I guess that's the struggle, right? So I remember when Heart Gold and Soul Silver came out, and a lot of the advert campaign was again about this. Do you remember playing Silver and Gold originally? And maybe this is now the opportunity to pick up a DS. Are they DS or 3D? DS. Yeah.
I'm gonna say
Heart
DS,
Gold.
yeah.
And so yeah, is that tightrope walk between changing it up so much that it's completely different, or perhaps annoy fans, or not match expectations of people going back to it. And you certainly just kind of can't re-release the game as it was, and I think that would have been the worst thing possible to do. I don't know. I've got a lot of time with it, and I think a lot of time with it, and a lot of time for it. I think once you blast through that storyline, it just becomes the kind of shiny collecting side destruction. And another thing I added, which is a bit strange, but actually I've ended up doing quite a few of them, is once you beat the Elite Four, across the world spawns 151 Master Trainers. So for each Pokemon in the first generation, there's a Master Trainer out and about, and you have to, should you want to, you can kind of fight it with one of your, so there's a Pikachu Master out there, and you need to fight the Pikachu Master with your Pikachu, and when you beat it, you kind of earn a title. And those are really challenging. Are they?
Are they?
No, they're not. They are. You can't just level up a Slowpoke and then go and find the Slowpoke person. You do actually have to invest some thinking and some time into it. So yeah, there's a little extra bit of a challenge. And then I don't know, I would never do this. But there is, I think you get a title for beating all of the master.
That sounds like something you would do.
No, I've just done it every time I've caught a shiny. I was like, I'll invest some candies and some stats in this and grab the title.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and then you're kind of referred to as that title. Other things that would have been great to have had, which didn't really carry over. There's no kind of ribbons here, so you can't earn little bits which go on your Pokemon for when you eventually transfer them out. There's no. It's a minor point, but it grinds my gears as we go on. There's no amiibo connectivity, so we've now got.
Oh my god.
10, 11, 12. Something like 13 Pokemon amiibos. All from the Smash. Oh, most of them from the Smash series. One of them from Detective Pikachu game. And there's been nothing to do with them in Pokemon games at all. Strange. So yeah, that's one thing I would have liked from the second proper Pokemon game from the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay then.
So there we go.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a straight up negative Nelly about this game, and I mean, I like the best part is like it's a really good looking Switch, and I would say that the positive things about that game are, yes, it's a pretty remake. You get to have your Pokemon out, and like I think you get to have the Pikachu on your shoulder. Am I right?
Yes, so that's one of those other features which the Pokemon community's been asking for a long time, and then we got it for one game.
Yeah, but they didn't include that in Sword and Shield. But they've got to save something for those expansions. You've got the other 600 Pokemon. You got they've got to keep getting your money for Sword and Shield. They'll eventually add it. I guarantee it. I remember just to go on a slight tangent there. I remember people were talking to me because I was quite excited about Sword and Shield, and they were all talking about Dexgate. Oh my god, how terrible is it? They've only included 400, and I'm like, are you stupid? No. They are going to add the other 500, 600 Pokemon in there. They're just going to take their time about it. And they're already starting to release it in the DLCs.
Yeah, I mean, already with the updates, they've added a couple of legendaries, some of the old style Incineroar's back. And that in a way that's for those of us who buy and play these games as they come out, which is not everybody, obviously. Let's Go was a really nice. Oh, I thought it was a really nice palette cleanser. Right, great. Back to the original 151. No, kind of unwieldy carrying of 806 different Pokemon around. And it was something that we both commented was quite nice about, Sword and Shield was, a cast of 400 still quite huge. It was, it was still a bit of a challenge to fill out the Pokedex.
Yeah.
But it was nowhere near 806 in the bloody game. So yeah, it's quite it was quite a nice palette cleanser in that it was much more easier to play, much more trimmed down casts, kind of very free and easy. The advantage to the Pokeball Plus kind of being one-handed is you can kind of
jack off at the same time.
Dude, I was impressed that we didn't come up the last time I said it. And I thought, can I get it around again and we'll not go there? Is that you can lounge, like you could with the Wii. So you don't have to have your hands.
I mean, in general, that is a nice thing about
lounging around
Switch games. Just being able to split the controller and then just lay with each controller bit in your hand. That is great. I love that.
Yeah. It's weird. And the controls, I mean, we talked a little bit about the controls, but it is Pokeball Plus is weird. So when you're playing with it, you need to access another controller to do certain things, like to leave the game. Or when it's,
yeah.
It doesn't have enough buttons. It only has 2 buttons. Anyway, so there we go. That's Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu. To finish off, something slightly different. So I got the Pikachu version, and you got the Eevee version.
Yep.
Because that's how we always do things. Now, I think it's from Go, actually. I have a shiny Eevee. Just the one. I know that you've probably got loads.
I do. I think I've got 13 of
them. So like I said, second most bankable Pokemon. So I'm in a dilemma. Which evolution do I go for as my first shiny?
As your first shiny for Eevee?
Because at the moment, there's a little Eevee just sitting in Pokemon Sword and Shield. All my other shinies are kind of, EV'd and trained and leveled, or being trained and leveled. And it just kind of sits there and it bugs me. But then I kind of look at the evolutions and I can't make a decision.
Well, I mean, to be honest, all of the evolutions are pretty tame. They're usually muted versions. The most extreme is probably Jolteon or Espeon, where you just get a completely different color. So I think.
Well, Jolteon's like asparagus wee green, right?
Yeah, yeah, he is.
Is that Mountain Dew green?
I mean, ultimately, the best evolution you could go for, I would say, is Sylveon. But do you get that choice?
Is that because you're biased?
Yeah, definitely, absolutely, definitely. What and Let's Go, is it only the original 3 evolutions that you get?
No, no. It's sorry, it's sitting in Sword and Shield.
Sword and Shield. Then straight up Sylveon. I wouldn't give it too much of a think.
Okay, but then I feel that's treading on your toes a bit. So okay, let's say Sylveon's top, because it's the Sylveon build is a good build, and the color variation is a nice color variation.
I would say
Vaporeon,
next. Well, why would you go for the water one? He's actually got
one of the
worst stats. Go on.
I'm saying Vaporeon or Flareon are aesthetically the worst. Slight palette changes.
I just hate the fact that Vaporeon has this flipper and the weird gill ear things. I do not like the way Vaporeon looks at all as a Pokemon.
Yeah.
Even
I'd say
like
it's one of my
non-shiny. Oh well, there you go. That's an
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. I don't know
Okay.
why. I think it's because Flareon looks like Eevee's rough cousin, you know?
It's just got a bit of hair on his head. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And we're like, you know, when your aunt or when your uncle aren't looking, will knee you in the balls and spit down the back of your neck.
Man, you had some rough cousins, man.
So that's Flareon.
Yeah.
Jolteon looks a bit like you know how when you see Bengal cats, you know, like it's like you can't tame that cat. It's a wild animal. So for
Yeah.
me, Jolteon's
Yeah. I see where you're coming from.
force this wild animal in captivity. And then Vaporeon, and then the other 2, 3, 4. Oh my god!
There's so many.
So we've not talked about. We've not talked
I
about
mean,
Glaceon and Leafeon.
Glaceon and Leafeon are the most ridiculously shit shinies you will ever see. And I know because I've contemplated these for like my Pokemon Go, and there's no difference. Zero difference. It's slightly lighter. It's like fuck off. Just fuck off. But
I think Glaceon
we're
has
saving
that awful
bangs that he's got.
and the fringe.
Oh yeah.
It has that straight cut fringe and bangs.
Yeah.
And
But
that's never looked good on a
let's
cat dog animal.
clearly ignored one of the potentially best but ultra edge lordy one, Umbreon. Now
So
admittedly it's a black cat and it has like yellow stripes and hoops on it, and then it becomes a black cat with blue stripes and things like that. I think that's quite cool. I think there is something about that that's quite good. And also Umbreon was very, very classic for a long time in its moveset as being a curse tank.
I think it still holds up in that respect.
Yeah.
If you're not prepared for an Umbreon, comes out.
All of the evolutions actually have a really, really high base stats that you forget about. And it's like, okay, wow, why has it got such a high defense stat? Why has it got such a high special defense stats? Like, I have 2 different Sylveons, one which is pure attack, and one which is a Defendy Prick. And the Defendy Prick one is just, it's so hard to take down. And like you used to have like Umbreon with leftovers and curse tanking, and it would have you know, it was so hard to take down. And I think that gives it a mystique, or some kind of a, you know, sort of a rose tinted mystique as well. I think Umbreon's a good one, shiny wise. But yeah, I like, other than that, you've got
There's all
green.
That filthy.
Go on. Filthy what?
Of Umbreon and Zoroark and Lucario.
Filthy what? Oh,
fan art.
Oh, fan art. Yeah, but I mean, it's, the moment anything is a furry, that's probably why Eevee actually has a fan base. The moment it just enters that yiffy, furry, humanoid but animal thing, it gets creepy, it gets weird, and there are weird people who want to sex them.
They're trying really hard with Glaceon and Leafeon to make them such awful designs that people wouldn't draw those horrible pictures. But then, you know, Espeon has a forked tail, for God's sake.
So? So?
So it can penetrate 2 holes at once with its tail.
I just really wanted to make you say that.
And then I think they just decided to lean in fine and then come up with Sylveon.
Oh yeah, with built-in bondage gear. Got those weird
Yeah,
ribbons that
built-in-
fly around.
Bondage gear inspired by Suikun's butt ribbons.
But yeah, on regards to that, so we have Eevee, we have
Mm-hmm.
what is it, 9 different evolutions? No, 8 different evolutions, but 17 types. So we still don't have Eevee like steel type. We
Poison.
still don't poison
Rock.
type. Yeah.
Bug.
Yep. This is a great
All the
game.
best types. I know. Yeah. How many types can we name?
3.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like or ghost type.
Flying.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's not do this.
Air.
Bird type. Right. But yeah,
Thunder type.
I would like to see that happen in the future as well.
I think if people stopped it with the filthy fan art, they would. But now they're like, we can't.
You keep
can't have
coming
you
back to
besmirching
the filthy fan art. Like, I've tried to
serious?
divert you away twice.
No, Richie. Listen, my dad knows somebody who works at Nintendo and Game Freak, and they're saying this is what's stopping them from releasing those other whatever it is, 12 Eevee types. It's the deviant art.
It's the deviant art crowd.
Yeah, because they don't want little kids being like, oh, Umbreon's my favourite, and then typing Umbreon into Google and just getting that filth come back.
But yeah,
Eiffel towering a Zoro or something.
Eiffel towering. Oh god.
Eiffel towering a Lopunny with a
Yeah,
Lucario.
Lopunny is one of these. Is one that you don't want to type into Google. It's like that classic meme of Gardevoir. Yeah, don't type in Gardevoir into Google image. And I mean, it's weird, you know. It's wrong. Like, just because it's a female-looking Pokemon, you gotta fuck it, you know. Yeah. But let's move away.
Incidentally,
move away from it. Incidentally, what? Incidentally, what? Go on.
Isn't it one of your favourite Pokemon? I was going to say.
Gardevoir. No.
Lopunny.
Lopunny is. Lopunny definitely is.
Oh, dirty. Dirty. Anyway, so that was 2018's Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu Let's Go Eevee. A strange experiment. One half us, I wouldn't say loved it, likes it, strongly likes it. I still put time into it.
Still play it one-handed.
Still play it one-handed. And then Richie got stuck in one of the gyms. He's not very good.
I think it's stuck in one of the gyms.
Really? Then why haven't you done it?
Because I got to the Poke Park, and that is.
Because you got stuck.
No.
In Viridian Forest.
In Viridian
Forest. Scared by the Metapods.
And the music. Eek! Bug Pokemon! Eek!
Oh no! I don't like it! How
My
is this,
trousers didn't fit me anymore!
I cannot believe it's Peggy 7! It's too scary!
Fuck off!